Good evening. Welcome, everybody,
Absolutely.
on the Conscious BA. Tonight, we have two speakers, Stan and Johan, and they are going to tell us something about how a BA should behave. I'm anxious to find out. I'm very curious. Anxious even. Yeah. Of course, little word. We could not have done this without Queso and Computer Futures. Thanks for that. So here, Stan is going to speak to us from his role as project manager, program manager, even, and Johan from his co-creation view. They work for 4Dimensions. Maybe you want to introduce 4Dimensions for us?
Maybe at the end. At the end.
At the end? Superb.
Hey, welcome everybody. Good evening. I hope you had a great day doing business analysis today. I had, of course. I just started at a new customer, and they asked me to define the role of a business analyst. That was the first question I got when I entered this new customer. And of course, I'm looking around a little bit, talking to people. And one of the first things I noticed was that, okay, who are these business analyst people in this customer? And when I walked around and asked who are the business analysts, they told me, we don't have any business analysts here in this company. We only have developers, testers, and different kind of people. So the problem is we don't have a methodology. Okay. And I started to look around, and that's one of the things we want to show you today. Well, the methodology is not all. I know we are all proud of the tools and the customer journeys and the story mocks that we can draw on the board and that we can model, and the methodologies. But today we will not talk about that. We will talk more about the mindsets and the how of doing business analysts, not about all the tools and the methodologies. Okay, of course, they are important, and it's important to have the hard skills also. But today we will talk more about the soft skills of being a business analyst. So it's more about being a business analyst than about doing a business. Okay, I should look a little bit more like this. So I've been doing business analysis for more than, let's say, 25 years. And one of the things I noticed in a lot of projects and a lot of customers is that the most difficult problem a lot of times is to find the right problem. Because a lot of times I spend energy and money and a lot of time in solving the wrong problem. So finding what the real problem is quite a challenge when you enter a company or a project as a business analyst. So once you have found the real problem, defining the solution, I don't say it's easy, but it's maybe a little bit more easy than finding the right problem. Because oftentimes you come into a company and you think this is the problem, but after a couple of months or after a couple of meetings, maybe this is not the problem. They have another problem. It's not an IT problem. It's not a technology problem. It's a people problem, or it's an organizational problem. So finding the right problem is one of the big challenges, I think, in your job as a business analyst. And that's why we want to talk about what we call the conscious business analyst. I know it's a quite complex title, but I think as a business analyst, it's important before entering into solutions to find the right problem and to make your context, to talk to people, to get to know the company, the culture, the emotion, how people work there, what the strategy of the companies, before diving into solutions. And that's what we want to talk about today. I don't know in your project, in your company, how many times people ask the why question before they enter into starting talking about solutions. A lot of people like to talk about solutions because that's the easy part. And when we start to draw screens, and that's very concrete, and people like to talk about solutions. But how many times do they ask the why question before diving into the solution? And I know sometimes it's challenging because people don't like it. But when you enter a project or a customer, daring to ask the why question, not just one time, but 7 times, like they say in the Toyota way, daring to ask these why questions is a very important part of finding the right problem. And once you have found the right problem, then you can start to define solutions. So that's one of the main messages here that I wanted to use as an introduction to what we are going to talk about.
Yeah, thank you, Johan. I'm Stan. I'm also new at my client at the moment. I'm there already for 2 months. I'm trying to figure out what my role will be in the company. I will see how it goes. I'm a program manager around sustainability. That's my title. But still, I'm looking about what my role will be. I'm just here to give some examples, to tell you some stories of the maybe conceptual things that we will talk about today. Just tell a few things that I encountered during my daily meetings at several clients that I have, but I encourage you to share your stories as well. So I will share a few stories of mine, and then we will see if you have a few stories that you want to share with each other. Just this problem, just a very small story happened this week to me. I was in a meeting. It was a meeting like we all have, 10 people in a room, and let's solve a few things. It was about a supplier event we were planning. We want to invite a few suppliers and share with them the strategic goals of our client and get some insights and just share a few things. And the goal of the meeting was with 10 people, determine the agenda of that supplier meeting and determine the storyline, what we will talk about with that client. Okay, no problem. I was just a spectator, and I'm new in the company. I'm a spectator. I'm sitting there. And after a few minutes, there's an analyst, or I assume it's an analyst. I have no idea, but I think it's an analyst. And he stood up and he said, I think we should, next to the supplier event, we should have a regular newsletter. We should have a regular newsletter every month sending to the suppliers. We should have a newsletter. We need to have a newsletter. I was almost shouting. And we are in Belgium, of course, and everybody said, oh, yeah, newsletter. Yeah, that's interesting. We need a newsletter. Yeah, of course. And he's the one making the most noise about the topic. So we went with the newsletter. So the newsletter, we need to have a newsletter. And I said, the first thing we need to have, if we want to send a newsletter, is to have the consent of the supplier that we can send him an email. You can't send just an email to a supplier. You need to have the consent these days with privacy, etc. So we spent the entire meeting drafting the process of how to get a consent from the supplier. And in the end, everybody's happy. We found a solution about having consent of the supplier to send them an email. And we went out, and I asked to the whole audience, but certainly to the one that started the meeting, what was the goal of the meeting again? We needed to have a storyline for our supplier event. And we ended up with just a framework of having a consent with the supplier. So for me, that's also the role of a business analyst, or at least of an analyst, to keep the focus, to keep the why of a meeting, to keep the why of a project, to keep the why of a whole program, of course. But it's about facilitating. It's about making sure that everybody is still on the same page. And maybe just to start the discussion, how many of you have meetings like mine every day? I only have meetings like this every day. Thank you, Dieter. Not every day.
Not every day.
That's why we are so important to keep on having other meetings, to have focused meetings, to have why meetings, and not to have solution meetings every day.
Yeah. Keep asking the questions and not dive into the solution directly, and then going at the coffee. Why did we spend 2 hours of a meeting to discuss this? Was not the real problem. So, okay. So today we are going to not to talk about methods, tools, and methodologies and techniques. So it's a little bit more difficult today. You need to get out of your head a little bit and get into your body and your feeling. And what we want to talk about is about the qualities of being a business analyst. And by being, I mean, what is the inner state? What is your inner state of being a business analyst? How do you enter a room? How do you enter a meeting? What is your inner state? How do you connect to people at an emotional level? How do you connect to your customer, to your partner? How do you do that to make a good analysis of the problem and to come up with good solution proposals? So it's more about being than about doing. It's about how you feel and how you connect to the people that you have to collaborate with. So it's a little bit more about the soft part of being a business analyst today. And the first topic we wanted to talk about is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated skills, not only in business analysis, but also in leadership. It's about listening. We are so used to talk from ourselves, from our ego, from our thinking, from our stress or feelings, all the emotions that we have in our mind. But listening is, in a lot of cases, much more difficult. And if you want to come up with a good solution, I think the first thing you have to do is to listen. And listening can be done at different levels. So I want to share with you a small model about the different levels of listening that you can connect with people. And I will maybe make a little flip chart if that's possible. The first level of listening, when you have a context or a problem that you want to solve, the first level of listening is that you start to listen from your own ego. I say ego is from your own perspective, from the experience that you have, the education that you have, the background, the culture, all the patterns, all the kind of ideas that you have in your own mind. And I still see a lot of people listening from that perspective. They have their experience, and in their experience, this is the solution. So I come up with this solution, and this is my way of listening. Okay, that's the most basic level of listening. Then you have a second level of listening is, okay, you start to go to the context of your problem or your organization or your system that you want to analyze. And okay, it's not your own ego. You try to find out some data, some figures, some facts. So you start to listen from the data that you see in the environment around of you. It's a second level of listening. So you start to gather data, you start to talk to people. So you start to go to the boundary of your system and ask information, and you start to listen from that perspective. That's what I call a little bit second level of listening. Then a third level of listening is that you go out of yourself and you put yourself in the shoes of the stakeholders for which you will have to solve a problem. So you try to figure out, not only from yourself and from data, but you try to put yourself really in the shoes of the customer or the stakeholder that you want to analyze for. So it's a kind of empathic way of listening. You feel empathy for the people around you. You try to think out of their perspective, and from that perspective, you try to find solutions, and you listen to the people that you talk with, the stakeholders or the customers in the workshops. That's what I call the third level of listening. And then even there is a fourth level of listening, which we call sometimes generative listening or co-creation, sometimes called co-creation. That's when you start to listen from the complete context. You don't put yourself only in the place of one stakeholder, but you start to feel the field. You start to see the customer, the partner, the competitors. You start to feel the different stakeholders. And from that perspective, you listen to the situation, and you try to find out solutions. So it's a little bit a theoretical model, but I think it's very important for yourself to know from which level you are listening. And the more you can listen from a co-creation point of view, I think the more chance you will have to come up with solutions that create value for all the stakeholders in the field. Here it's your solution. It's your solution based on some data. It's the solution of one person. And here it's a solution that will create value for all the stakeholders involved in the context. So, and this is what we call co-creation type of listening. So I have a special place at the beach where I live, and and from time to time, when I have a complex challenge, I try to go in silence and think about myself, and then try to see the situation, try to see all the different stakeholders, try to feel in with the different people. And from that perspective, I have to say most of the time I can come up with much more valuable solutions than when I just sit in my own thinking and then don't consider the context around me. So I think it's a very, very important skill, not only for business analysts, I would say for all types of leaders, but it's something you can develop by being more conscious and by being more aware of the situation around you. Okay. Is that a little bit clear what I mean by that? Because it's not so easy to explain. Yeah.
Does it work? I don't hear coming myself from a speaker, but okay. In your story, you are talking very much about solutions.
Yeah.
But when you are going into a room with your stakeholders,
yes,
the first thing that you want to know is what is the problem here?
Yes.
And then listen to understand.
Yes.
Where is that in your story?
Yeah, I mean, I was framing a little bit more too much about solutions. Yeah. Could be. It's more about sensing the field, about sensing the challenges, than about already defining solutions. And once you sense the context, the solutions come up in a much more natural way, I think. Yeah.
If you already listened enough.
Yeah.
If you have defined, of course, the problem itself, so you can also have the listening part just around the problem. And it's only in the second listening exercise that you come to the solution part, I think. So you are right.
Maybe we have a little bit different approach.
Yeah.
But what you do with the solution, I am used to the same with the problem.
Yeah.
First, just listen to understand.
Yes.
Try to understand it. Try to be interested. Ask some right questions, and don't think about solutions. You can only think about solutions when you know what the problem is.
I agree.
You have
I agree.
completely right.
Yeah.
Yes, but I missed that. That's why.
Okay. Good feedback. Thank you. But there's another one, another question.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit on the same level as I've heard from my colleague here. Because you mentioned you start with the middle point. I would start with the third level and try really to understand the person, because when he starts, you let him speak about himself, and then you start listening and he is prepared to talk to you. I would start on the third level.
But it's not about starting, it's just to explain the model that there are 4 levels of listening. So I think you need to switch levels a little bit, and it's not about starting at 1 and then going to 4. That's not
because I understood that you said I start with that first step. But, okay.
Yeah, it's not different. It's not a starting point. It's just levels of.
Not one correct.
No. It's just being aware that there are different levels of listening, and then being able to switch. I think the 4th level is, of course, the best if you want to co-create value and afterwards design solutions that create lasting value for all stakeholders. Yeah. Okay, thanks for your questions. Good, so nice. You like so direct.
Not easy to do. If I may add an example here, it's a little bit more low level, less deep than Johan. I'm always the one who is more low level than Johan.
It's not about.
Yeah.
Just all the levels.
Sorry. But listening is also about leadership. Everybody should be able to listen, and certainly leaders should be able to listen. It's not only up to the business analyst to make that happen. Just as an example, a few years back, we developed a self-assessment for employee engagement to sell to a lot of clients who want to do an engagement survey to their employees. And the sales guy goes to the client and tries to sell the employee assessment, and he's successful at a few clients, but at a few clients he's not successful because the solution does not have the feature of reminder emails. We have a good employee assessment. We send out an email to invite the employee to fill out a questionnaire, but we don't have the reminder email feature. And the sales guy comes back to the product owner and to the business analyst. We need to have reminder emails. If not, I cannot sell the solution anymore, and we will have no sales revenue anymore. That's it. Product owner has a choice. In a few cases, I think also product owners in my at the time would have built the reminder emails and tried to sell it, and probably it would have sold to a few more clients at the time, but then the core problem wouldn't be solved, I think, because if the sales guy would have listened to the client, it would have been about response rate. We need to have more response rate of employees filling out the questionnaire, and if you listened even better, it would have been about making more impact with an employee assessment on the employee engagement at the end, rather than having lots of people filling out an employee assessment. But okay, the sales guy didn't really listen. He just told the product owner, get me some reminder emails. And the product owner said, yes, I want to help you, and try to listen to the sales guy. What does the sales guy want? Anybody? Sell more, of course. He doesn't care about the reminder emails. He just wants to sell. That's it. So he says to the sales guy, can I talk to your client? Can I help you sell the product a little bit more? Not easy. Most sales guys do not really like product owners or technical people or functional analysts to talk to a client. Let's stay far away from the client, but he could do it. And the product owner found out that it's about the response rate, and started his journey of solution finding, as I call it, and try to talk to a few other people, try to do some research to gather some data, maybe level 2 to gather some data, to talk to marketing guys, to talk to developers. A developer designed an experiment, not a development, an experiment where we sent just manually reminder emails. It didn't work at all. The response rate didn't go up at all. We talked outside our development team, go to marketing, and marketing designed an information campaign to employees, and that worked. So we gathered some data. It worked to have more information about why an employee should fill out a questionnaire, what was in it for the employee to fill it out, and it worked. So the response rate went up. And in the end, we went back to the client and we said, we can't give you a reminder email, but we can give you an information campaign. And we will be sure that not only the response rate will go up, but also the impact of having an employee engagement will go up. And we have sold the clients the employee engagement and the information campaign, en plus, of course. Sales guys happy, the impact was better, and everybody working on the project felt heard and felt part of the solution. That's what my story was.
Okay, so listening, everybody's listening. Yes, question.
So talking to the customer, we had a few times that they couldn't go to the customer, or not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, do I have to repeat it? Example is very beautiful, but when you cannot go to the customer because the sales guy doesn't want to, or whatever reason. How can you do that? Because very often I get that remark, I cannot go to the customer.
And my whole story that I was telling, that was the most difficult part. So our product owner was also not able to talk to the customer. There was a sales guy in between. He wouldn't give his contact. No, you cannot talk to the customer. Not at all. It's only after talking to the sales guy, talking, listening, finding some common ground. I will help you sell, come into his belief and come to his goals. I want to help you sell. That you try and go closer and closer and closer. It took us almost 2 months to go to that one client, but we also refused to develop, which had some tension too, to say the least.
I also try to do that, to delay the execution of the question, so that maybe I get more information and try to push that. But sometimes it still doesn't work.
It's very expensive to develop. Huh? It's very expensive to develop all kinds of solutions. If you don't believe that a solution will work as a product owner, why should you build it? But many times you're obliged to build it because you have senior people who say you have to build it. Talk to them, listen to them, and try to find what drives them, and try to convince them that it should be done otherwise. If anybody else have other insights of how to get closer to the clients, please tell me.
From your perspective, I have a few examples. For example, I have worked here in Antwerp at IIBA Healthcare. The stakeholder that you want to speak is not there, not the doctor, not the laboratory guys, etc. You have your marketing guys. The marketing guys are visiting the doctors and the hospitals every day. You have to build your client relation with the marketing guy, because you will not get the invitation to come with him to the hospital and ask the doctor himself. He has different things to do. But that marketing guy is going to hospitals and doctors, etc. for many years. He knows something too. And you have to mobilize, how is that in English? Mobiliseren, that knowledge that the marketing guy has with him. But when he goes into the field, you can ask the marketing guy, please discuss this, please discuss that. And simply ask him what the doctor wants. Questions like that. What is the problem? What problem needs to be solved? But build your relation with the marketing guy, because you will not get through to the doctor. You have to do something else. And that was with IIBA and all pharmacists. It was the same. You have to build that client relation with someone else.
I agree. You should build a real intimate relationship with the middleman in this case. But still, the end goal should be, dear middle guy, can I come along with you to the end user? I think it's very, very useful, very important that you can speak in the end, and maybe after a few months, if you have gained the trust, if you have really listened to the middle guy, if you have gained the trust, you will get access to the end guy, I think.
Maybe in some exceptional situations, you will get through to the real client. But an X-ray machine has thousands of clients.
Of course.
And you have to find the right client that tells you that is in front with his knowledge, with his questions, to get through there. But in daily life, it is not very usual that you will get with that guy at the table.
Yeah. Well,
so you have to learn the marketing guy a little of business analysis, how to execute an interview. You give him a list of questions that you want to know.
But just observation sessions are very, very important technique. Just invite yourself for a day or for a half a day into the context of the customer and the real customer, not the manager, the customer who needs to use the solution. Invite yourself, go and sit down in the help desk and see what kind of problems are entering. These are the places of most potential.
Spend the day on the other side of in the room where the technicians are. Listen.
Yes, of course. And just listen, go there and just write down what you hear, and very, very useful information, I think.
feeling
Yeah.
is related to your fourth level.
Mhm.
Being able to sense the context,
Yeah.
complete context of the stakeholders, and then
Or visit competitors.
even.
Yeah. Good idea. Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we're already out of time. Okay.
That's what
the
listening part.
Listening part, yeah. Yeah, then we come into a second part I would like to touch a little bit. It's about, I called it curiosity. It's like becoming a little child again, huh? And being curious about the situation, the challenge, the problem you want to tackle. So I said it already in the beginning, not to jump into conclusions or solutions, and really being curious about the situation. And also, I think for a business analyst, it's important not to stay, I would say, inside the discipline of business analysis. I would also, why not being a tester? Why not being interested in the technology part? Why not the business? Go to a session, I don't know, a business session, a competitor. So really being curious about the context in which the problem that you need to solve is situated. It's about developing an open mind. A lot of times we are, me, myself also, I have studied university and we have like fixed ideas in our head, but developing an open mind and trusting your own discipline and talking with people with other experiences, people from other culture, other environments, other expertises. So opening up your mind and being curious, really curious about the situation that you need to tackle. So when I started doing business analysis 25 years ago, the analyst was behind the PC screen doing modeling in modeling tools. I don't say it's bad to do modeling, but you need to go outside. You need to step outside and being curious about the problem and really be passionate about the problem before you start to define solutions. And that's what I call curiosity. It's also an important quality, I think, to develop when you need to tackle a complex situation. Is that? We switched a little bit rules, but okay, that's fine. Yeah, I have a case there. Just a simple case. I was a product owner of a team. An HR, it was an HR product, and we were thinking about the concept of an HR function. So what is your function? Your HR function. So in the HR business, this is a very important concept because it defines a lot of other things. So we were using that concept, for example, in authorization of applications. We were using that concept to drive the payroll of the employees. So it was a very central core concept in the solution. So the business analyst defined this concept needs to be mandatory in the solution. So the developers, okay, the concept needs to be mandatory. It's not optional. It needs to be filled in. What was the result? Yeah, okay, all the customers filled in the concept, but the data was crap. Yeah, because they never explained why the concept was so important, because authorization was built on that, payroll was built on that. So instead of, as an analyst, defining this concept is important, it needs to be mandatory, maybe it was a better idea to develop training, education to other people, just to explain why this concept is so important and just to bring in different people into awareness that this concept needs to be important. It's just stepping out of your own thing and seeing how you can do other things, maybe to come up with, at the end, a better final result. So this is the kind of curiosity, I think, that is important to take into your mind when you start to do business. Just an example. Maybe you have lots of these types of examples. The problem sometimes is, I have to say, I have to be honest, that you don't get the time and the space to do that. People always say, I don't get time, we don't. But it's always a balance between, okay, I told it this morning also in my custom, okay, you don't want to take the time, okay, then you don't have the quality, yeah, then you don't have the value. It's always a balance between being efficient, but being efficient on solutions that don't create any value is not efficient at all. So it's always a balance between efficiency and value creation. And if you need to come up with good solutions, of course, it takes some time, and you need to be take some time and to think about it. That's the consequence, I know.
I think many
Losing money and energy is not a solution. It's always a balance.
many times the solution you as a business analyst think is good, and you have discussed it with stakeholders, it's not always within your span of control. If you are in a development team or in a product team, it's quite easy to develop, but it's not so easy to persuade marketing or communication or implementers or consultants. So let's develop. That's an easy solution. We will develop something. But very often the solution is about the human touch. It's about talking to clients, about information. It's about community. That's not easy, of course. It sounds more expensive to develop, but still we develop. We always develop. I don't know why. Let's stop.
Yeah.
But
okay. How are we doing in timing? It's okay. 20 minutes. Okay. Authenticity. Is this mine also? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a value that I consider very important, but I also know in the business world it's not always that easy. But I don't know how many times you needed to tell something to people which you didn't really believe it was a real solution, so something like that, because somebody said it had to be that way. I did it a lot of times. And if I look back at my experience, it was never a good solution. When I did this, so when I was not real with myself or with the context, or when I started to sell something to my team, for example, as a product owner, we need to do it like this. And I felt somewhere that I didn't believe it myself. I was not being authentic with myself. At the end, if I look back at these cases, it was never a good solution. I had an experience in my career that I had a team of people, and it was a big team, and it brought in a lot of money. And I needed to motivate these people to do that project, but I didn't believe in that project in myself. I can tell you, I was not proud at the end about the result of the project, nor about the way I tried to motivate the people to do something which was not authentic. So being authentic is about being real with yourself, but also giving the space to other people to let them be real with their selves. So you often have it in sales situations, where some salespeople try to convince you of something. So I think in a business analyst, you're part of a team. You need to be able to bring everything to the table yourself, but you need also to create space for the other people to let them be themselves. And if you can create that culture of authenticity in your team, these are the winning teams, in my opinion. These are the teams that really, and then if you have a challenge, I can guarantee you that team will do a step more than another team. So being authentic is about being authentic with yourself, but also creating space for other people to be authentic. And then that's what we call multidisciplinary teams. Then you can make teams that are complementary. Okay, I'm good in this, but I'm honest. This is something I can do. Maybe you can do that, and you are good in that. And then you create a team of people who are willing to take on a challenge. And I think authenticity is an important part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Overselling has been the biggest problem of our previous project, I think. Selling something, refocusing the team. Now we have to do this, and then some other client came in, and we saw. So it's the biggest problem that we faced in the previous project, I think. But also within a project, it can happen within a product team. I have an example. It doesn't matter about which functionality it was, but we created a mock-up. Somebody, just one person, overnight created something really cool, something which really solved a problem, which was high tech, it blew in a sprint demo, it blew the stakeholders away. I was one of those stakeholders. I was a bit of a salesperson at the time. I was also blown away. So I kept on convincing other stakeholders that we had a very cool idea, and it's almost ready. Of course, it's not ready. It was something on a PowerPoint with a cool screenshot. It's almost ready. It's very simple. It's very clean. It's very edgy. I really thought that it was almost ready. So for me, I was authentic, but I never listened to the people who needed to build it. I got a lot of feedback from the team. Ready, not ready, yeah, and it will take more than a year to do so. And in the end, it took, of course, more than a year to do so, to make it happen. It made me look bad. It made my clients very dissatisfied, malcontent in Nederlands. So I think that's maybe my biggest problem. I always oversell.
That's authentic stuff.
Yeah, back to you. Somebody else who gets regular overselling in their
Have
team?
you sometimes the feeling that you need to do things that you already know from the beginning that it's not going to work?
CEOs who come in and say,
Yeah.
now we need this.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think one of the most important.
Mm-hmm.
And also, maybe this is also related to the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you enter customer environment
Mm-hmm.
where the expectations are high,
Yeah.
too high.
Yeah.
And then you start listening, you start questioning the why question, etc., etc. So that's also a challenge.
Mm-hmm. I have also to be able to be authentic, there need to be psychological safety in the company, and that's a lot of times a problem. If there is not safety, if you know you are going to be blamed or fired or whatever, or there is a culture, there is not a culture of safety in a company, sometimes it's very difficult to be authentic. So that's one of the prerequisites to be able to be authentic.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I think that, in fact, this culture is changing.
Yeah, it's changing.
People
but, yeah.
can make errors. It's not, it's less problem than 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. The microphone, maybe.
Thank you. Also about authenticity, I was going to say, like, as an analyst,
Yes.
I don't really come close to being authentic in terms of selling projects because I'm part of a team and part of a project that needs to be analyzed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when I select we work agile, so I can choose the stories that I work on.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be authentic in that, like I choose things that work well for me, and not just in the sense of knowledge, but things that I can really bring convincingly also to the stakeholders that I know that I can sell well as an analyst, and that I also find interesting, or that I think I can grow in. So it's that's the kind of authenticity that I apply when I look for stories to analyze in the current sprint. And I think authenticity can also reflect in your listening, actually, because when we listen, obviously, in our role as an analyst, we're looking for data and we're looking to to find the problem,
Mhm.
and then towards the solution, a relationship is also built. And for me, it's a very thin line. Like, how can you be authentic? Because we all know I'm trying to get information, but in the end, we're all humans. And I also I'm still looking how to be as authentic as possible. And part of that is just small talk. But sometimes if it's a longer time, you really build up relations with people that last even after your work is done. And I appreciate that. That's very nice side effect.
Okay, nice comment. Yeah, yeah.
I agree. Yeah, if you
Yeah,
have a,
it's about being a whole, because ours is you have your private life, you have your professional. Well, you are a human being, you have emotions, thoughts. In private life, in professional, you are a whole human beings, but wholeness and being authentic in your wholeness, it's very important. Yeah, nice, nice comment.
Yeah. I think your point of having a safe environment
Yeah.
is actually crucial, because when you were telling about authenticity, I think of myself as pretty authentic, but I have been in a project where there was no space to talk to the clients, very limited options to talk to anybody except the developers and the product owner. And I remember not feeling where he wanted to go. I was not behind it. I didn't believe in it. But whenever I talked about it, asked the why, let me talk to the client, he shut me down. So at one point I was like, I give up. And I just go with the flow. But I never felt good and safe in that situation.
For me, it's also about leadership. I don't think as a business analyst you can try, you can motivate people, you can be authentic, but if you're really in a toxic environment, if you're really in a toxic company, I don't have a strategy how to change. That's the only thing you can do, I think. That's the only thing you can do in the end. I don't think you can change from your
business.
No, absolutely not. But we are the ones that need to give the example. We are the ones that really need to find the core problems, find the right solutions, be creative, and there we have an obligation to be authentic, to find the correct thing.
People I can help them.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely.
Up to the project manager put that initial list, and there it's because it has to go back to the organization. It will be outside of the scope of the project, so neither the business analyst nor the project manager can solve it. It has to be solved by the stakeholders, by the responsibles in the company, and it is very hard to overcome such issues.
Yes.
I agree. Okay.
Ah ja. Ik ben blij dat ik ook iets kan doen. Ja, dat wel. Hij ging inleiden. Hij ging inleiden. Ik ging het product geven.
Okay. The last.
Je hebt niet aligned.
The last. Yeah, it was yesterday night. The last quality I wanted to talk about a little bit is about consciousness. Of course, the title is The Conscious Business Analyst, and this is a little bit where it all comes together, I think. Okay, consciousness, there's a lot to say about consciousness. But for me, consciousness, it's about deeply connecting with your environment. So it means that you set your ego a little bit at the door and you try really to connect with all the stakeholders, with the partners, with the people in your environment. And you don't do it from here, you do it from here. It's a big difference. You can do it here in your head, you can make connections but then we are analyzing, like an analyst, you are doing it in your head. If you really want to connect consciously, you do it from your heart, you do it from here. So it's thinking from here. It's not thinking from there. Being conscious is being aware as a human being of your context and building connections with the people that you need to work with and that need to collaborate with, and do it from your heart. That's what I mean by being conscious. And I think it's important because a lot of times, of course, we are in our heads applying our methodologies and techniques, but it's important from time to time just to step back, to sink into your body a little bit, go out of your head and go into your heart and feel the connection with the people that you collaborate with from your heart. I have a very simple exercise that I use a lot of times when I go into a stressy or a meeting that I know, or a workshop that I know it's going to be difficult maybe. Just 10 minutes before you go into the workshop, you sit down in a room somewhere quietly, you bring your focus to your breath, and you try to sink into your body, and you try to connect to the situation from here and not from there. It's just 10 minutes of exercise before you go into an exciting meeting or workshop, just to bring your attention a little bit for here, and then to try to be in the meeting from here and not only from there. That's how I explain it in a very, it's much more complicated than that, but that's how I explain it in an easy way. Yeah. So being conscious about your environment, the people you work with, I think it's an important quality also to understand the context, to understand the problem, and to come up with sustainable solutions.
For me, there are many examples of where it fails. Consciousness fails in lots of meetings that we have. Just the first example that I give, let's start finding solutions, and I have a good solution and I want to put it out there and I want to prove myself that I have the best solution. Let's talk about it. I want to be right. I want to be right. I don't think we need to be right, as long as I am right. That's lots of times the case. I have an example of a previous company where I was, where the board of directors of the company asked the CEO, you have to do something about sustainability. We have to be a sustainable company. We have to do something about sustainability. And the CEO sat down in the meeting with all directors, the managers of the company. And she said to them, the board of directors told us that we should do something about sustainability. What do you think? And I knew already that a few of my colleagues had a very strong opinion for sustainability. We should do something for sustainability. It's an important topic. We should do something for it. And so she asks, she asks, what should we do? What do you think? What should we do around sustainability? And before anybody could speak, she took the word herself and she started to talk. Is it really necessary that we need to do something like that? And we have all those things on our plate, and we have the competition, and really sustainability? And then she went around the room. What do you think? Nobody said that sustainability was important. Of course not. The big CEO said, should we really do something about it? She really wasn't conscious at all about her surroundings. And afterwards, I met her at the coffee machine, and she, you see, Stan, not really important in sustainability. We will just do an information campaign and that's it. And so it happened. They only did an information campaign, and it's a marketing scheme right now. Nothing sustainable and nobody happy. But she really thinks that she is doing what the board of directors and what her own management is thinking that she should do. And I think as business analysts, we also do that many times. We have a solution in our mind. We should put it out there because it's the best solution. But at the time, we are not conscious anymore about other people's solutions, all the possible scenarios, why people say certain stuff, etc. Speak last is a very good technique for me in a meeting.
Okay. Any ideas? Yeah, Patrick, yeah, why not? Yeah, of course. I like interactions.
We are almost at the end, I think.
Yes, it's
Yes.
the last topic.
What I miss a little bit is how do you prepare?
How do you prepare?
Prepare for a meeting. You explained 10 minutes before, but
Yeah.
do you prepare questions? Do you check on who is in the meeting? How do you prepare?
Yeah.
It's
For me, Patrick,
Here or here?
yeah,
both.
Both.
Well, depends on the people.
Yeah.
You try to understand
Yeah.
the culture,
Yeah, here it depends
characters,
on what type of meeting is it. It very much depends on
content.
Yeah, what type of meetings. There are a lot of techniques. I've written a book in 2016 full of techniques that you can apply as a business analyst. But I have to say it's more from this perspective that I've been. So it depends on the type of meeting. Is it do you want to get the requirements and you can do a customer journey workshop? But that's the technique part. That's the methodology
the
part.
solution, but
Yeah.
you prepare also when you go for a meeting to listen.
Yeah.
Several levels. Do you
Yeah.
prepare questions?
Questions, yeah. If
Yeah.
you it's a first meeting, you have questions that you can use for that. Yeah, we have a whole bunch of techniques that you can apply there.
Yeah, that's also techniques.
But that's more techniques, yeah. It's more at that level. Yeah.
I got a good trick, I would say, if you're stuck.
Mhm.
Sometimes, or you're in a negative spiral that you don't see a solution, or you got a lot of negative vibes. I don't know how to say.
Yep.
But there's an exercise I use. As first, I write up all the things around a problem, for example. I write everything down on the paper, what has to do with the problem.
Mhm.
And then I do like a kind of breathing exercise.
Mhm.
Literally 5 minutes breathing,
Yep.
focusing on body parts.
Yep.
It's very shortly explained now. And then I do the exercise again.
Mhm.
And always there's a huge difference.
Mhm.
On the first paper, it's most of the time negative.
Okay.
And on the second paper, you see a lot of positive solutions.
Mhm.
And then you start again from that one. And it's a very easy exercise.
Mhm.
You don't have to be a meditation person or anything, but it helps a lot.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. It's those little things that can make a difference. Yeah.
I had another item for preparation
Yeah.
in response. It's getting to know the people that you're preparing that for. So if you have a workshop or a requirements gathering and you just get a name, and if you know it in advance, you can try to get to know who that person is, try to, I don't know, talk to them informally. And it depends on the context, but I've often found that if you know the people informally first before you get to meet them in a formal context, it does make things a bit easier then, but it's not always possible. But yeah, just a tip.
You can also set an intention. I have exercises on that, but these are sometimes quite long. So before you go into a meeting, you set an intention from your heart. What do you want to achieve in this? And not what do you want to achieve, but what do we as a company or as a team want to achieve at the end of this meeting? And you set this intention before the meeting. And you do it, yeah, you can write it down, you write it down, and then you just stay with that intention, and then you go into the meeting. So
Write it on the wall.
yeah,
I agree. Visualization is very important.
visualization is another one.
It's
So before you go in the meeting, you see all the people,
Yeah.
and you just visualize them. You just go and you embrace them. You look at them with love. I say, huh? Maybe it's a soft word, I know, but you visualize the people in the room, and you look at them from your heart before you enter. It's a visualization technique you can use.
And maybe with that exercise that was just discussed,
Yeah.
maybe you can also explain why you do it, because you want to empty your head.
Yeah.
You want that the people empty their heads.
Yeah.
You don't want people that are in the middle of discussion and want to put every time their own opinion
Yes.
before that the problem is defined.
Yeah.
No, you want to strengthen the listening to understand.
Yes.
Just listen, shut your mouth. That's what I always say. Shut your mouth and listen. Basically, that's the same. But empty your head, forget everything you want to say, forget everything that you know for the duration of the workshop. And when the questions are being asked, okay, activate it again. But then at least you know what the problem is, or you need already, you know already lots more.
Yep.
Actually, this is very positive because it's only about people.
It's
And
always only about
Always.
even we have a lot of technology and more technology.
Yeah.
Business is about people. Period.
Always. Whatever technology. Yeah.
I like the idea. I also really respect the centering technique of listening with your entire body, being present, and how important that is to step into that positive space. I think other words that you've also mentioned up there are very important is connecting with yourself, which I think is very much an understanding of your own sense of confidence. That if you're going into an environment in the conscious BA, it's that sense of I am here and I am valuable and I have skills that are uncommon. I think that's also part of what you're saying here, and connecting with yourself and your environment is that you are bringing yourself to that environment. You are bringing these skills to that environment. And I think it's a very, very important concept that you're doing that with calmness, not to enforce it to the environment, to be present in the environment. Right?
Thank you very much. Yeah.
We talked about authenticity. We talked about getting to know and listening. But to get creativity, I think you also need kind of tension to have different viewpoints and to discuss about this. How do you address this one?
Would you call it tensions, or
I call it
I think
tension
I
now.
think
It's
you
a
need
kind
an
of
open
tension.
an open mind, an open heart, that kind of context to enable creativity.
Yeah, but you have different standpoints.
I agree with you. It's not about being friendly all the time.
All the time. So you have
not at all. It's about being open, being authentic, being accepting another person being authentic, being conscious about another person's point of view, but still being yourself, authentic with your points of view. And they can be very different than the points of view of the other one. And it's not about being friendly and giving everybody, hey, yeah, you agree and I'm your friend. You can speak up, you can say your opinion, and you can listen to the other person's opinion. And there might be a tension on the content. And that's good, because from tension something beautiful can arise.
I think that also, yeah.
But on a personal level, you need to connect with these people. And it's about creating a safe environment where you can speak about those tensions.
I think that the tension needs not to be personal, but
no, of course
if it's tension related to the challenge or to the solution, that's fine. But it cannot be, it should better not be
personal. It's a bad way.
That level,
tension.
I think,
I'm talking about the options,
the challenge and the challenge.
And what
there's tension. Otherwise we don't have
as she was talking about the toxic environment, walk away. If the project and its expectations are too high, just say, I don't believe in it.
But also personal tension is possible. But in a good and in a safe environment where feedback is possible, also personal tension should be addressed, that can be addressed. Then a toxic environment is very difficult, of course.
It depends on the definition of personal then. Personal tension is...
I see that in a business context, there is always some type of competition, and that's the tension that I think could be used in a creative manner, where not necessarily trying to push your own idea forward, but sometimes it could be complementary. Like you have a skill set, the other one has a skill set, and you're both trying to excel and complement each other, and it's a creative process, and it could be that there's tension there, but it could be for the good as well. If that becomes toxic, then okay, that's negative, but I've seen it work also positively.
Yeah. One more question.
If you're listening properly, then you're going to hear everyone's perspective, right? It's difficult to say you're going to walk into a room and listen to everyone, and then not hear different perspectives, because if you have more than one person in the room, there's going to be different perspectives. So presumably that's the purpose, right? That's when you apply a technique, because you have three conflicting issues, and you might need to prioritize them. You might need to make them combine somehow, or you might need to work out which order to put them in. But otherwise, well, we don't need to meet if we're not listening to the different perspectives and trying to make the solution fit. You know, the room.
So it's about tension. So it's about
Yeah.
finding those differences and talking about them.
There is always wisdom in the crowd. You know always more with 1 + 1 = 3. Yeah? And if you let everybody speak out and come up with the solution, will always be better. Sometimes there are exercises to prove that. You can even prove that scientifically, that there is always a wisdom in the crowd. Always.
But at the end, it will be your solution. No, it's a joke.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're about.
So yeah, that was it. I just needed to mention that we are the 4 Dimensions. You asked us, who are you? So we are part of a company called 4 Dimensions, and we work on digital innovation on a strategic and tactical level, most of the time in a multidisciplinary context, so business, technology, solution. And we work around those values that we talked about today. So consciousness, authenticity, curiosity, in the hope that we can make the most impact possible at our clients and at the clients of our clients. That's who we are, and that's it. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
I think we went through a lot of questions about what it is and how we should act as a business analyst. I'm just going to make some promotion here for our next events. We weekly have an online BA cafe, so you can just dial in. Our next event is next month. It's about agile business cases. Please feel free to join. And our yearly big event, our annual conference, BA and Beyond, takes place in May. So it's promising to be very, very interesting. I've seen some of the topics. I'm going myself to. It's because the topics are just very nice. Next to that, this is a team that is in Belgium working, Belgium and Croatia, working on hosting these events. We always have room for one more. So if you want to help us creating new events or setting up a new event, please speak to me or speak to Philippe, or go to the website. And before I want to congratulate our 2 speakers with their very, very interesting speech, I want everybody, I want to invite everybody to either scan QR code or type the Menti URL and give us a rating on what you felt this evening brought to you? Did you think it was good? What was less good? What can be improved? We're happy to hear from you all. And then the most important part for the speakers, a thank you from us. Beers for both of you, so I'm going to get another one.
Thank you very much.
Give them a next round of applause.